At one point near the end of Brave New World, Sam Wilson uses Captain America's shield, Ant-Man's helmet, and Falcon's wings made from Black Panther's vibranium to fight a not-so-incredible Red Hulk. And so for the purposes of this review, I'm going to refer to him as Captain Black and Falcon Man from now on, partly because there's only ever going to be one Captain America for me, and that's Steve Rogers, but mostly because I can't think of a more fitting metaphor for what this movie is: a jumbled mishmash of different ideas and storylines ripped off from other better Marvel characters and films. A movie that's clearly been hacked to pieces and reassembled more times than Frankenstein's monster, complete with all the boring, played-out tropes you'd expect from an MCU that's been drifting rudderless for the past 5 years. A bunch of characters and subplots that go absolutely nowhere, and that doesn't seem to know what it is, and more importantly, why it even exists. And having spent 2 hours slogging my way through it, I can't really tell you either. In short, Captain Black, Can't Falcon Man, Brave New World, is everything we feared it would be: a blow-overblown, inconsistent mess anyway. I don't want to have to waste any more time talking about this than I have to. So without further ado, let's get it over quickly. The movie centers around the fight for control of the Celestial that exploded out of the Indian Ocean in the Eternals. I mean, it's only taken them like 5 years to address this gigantic plot hole, but whatever, better late than never, I guess. Anyway, because the Celestial's body contains enormous reserves of adamantium, a mineral which is even more invincible than vibranium. Oh, does someone not have a monopoly on the world's most valuable resource? Now pass me the world's smallest violin. There's now a bit of a gold rush to claim ownership of it, spearheaded by General Ross, who's now been promoted to President of the United States. His goal is to sign an agreement with Japan to share access to the Celestial, and the two countries are close to making a deal. Unfortunately, it all go tits up during a White House dinner, when Isaiah Bradley gets an attack of the galloping crazies and tries to assassinate him, only to forget the whole thing after he's captured Captain Black. And Falcon Man believes that he was mind-controlled into attacking Ross, and he's determined to clear his name. So he begins his own investigation that soon leads him to a classified black site, where he conveniently runs into Giant Brain, a test subject exposed to gamma radiation that caused him to get super smart, which Ross then exploited for his own personal gain. Oh yeah, and this small child shows up for like 5 minutes to give us the obligatory girl boss moment, and then basically does nothing for the rest of the movie. You've often heard me joke about petite actresses beating the out of guys twice their size, but in this case it's literally true. If she's more than 5 feet tall and weight more than 90, I would be shocked, but don't worry, I'll talk more about her later. Believe that anyway. Giant Brain Man engineered the whole thing to provoke a war between America and Japan, and with the two of opposing battle fleets closing in on the Celestial, Captain Black and Falcon Man races to the scene to stop them. Jesus, as if Japan would even think about challenging the US military for control of anything. So Captain Black and Falcon Man is able to defuse the situation by strategically kicking missiles out of the air, and then everyone goes home and Ross gives a speech to celebrate. But then it turns out that the heart attack pills he's been taking the whole movie are actually gamma radiation pills, which Giant Brain Man uses to turn him into Red Hulk, right? And yes, I'm being absolutely serious with this. Then there's a bit of a fight which destroys the White House and Captain Black, and Falcon Man asks him to stop being the Hulk because the writers couldn't think of any other way to get out of it. So he turns back into Harrison Ford, and then everyone goes home. And that's it. That's the plot for Captain Black and Falcon Man, Brave New Worlds. You know, when I think about the tortuous production process this movie had, all the rewrites and reshoots that it went through, it's actually hard to imagine what Brave New World even started out as. I mean, the overall tone is vaguely in line with Winter Soldier. There was clearly an attempt to ground it in something resembling reality. With all the government conspiracies, classified projects, black ops missions, and the looming threat of global war, the problem is it also has to work in ridiculous, like the continent-sized Celestial sticking out of the ocean and the Red Hulk, and those elements go together about as well as intersectional feminism and reason logic and personal accountability. You can't take the themes and emotional tone of the Eternals and Winter Soldier and mash them together in one movie and expect it to make sense. And as always, the devil is definitely in the detail here first. Up there's the antagonist, instead of an understandable villain, trying to bring about world peace by eliminating everyone who could oppose his agenda, furthering the movie's central theme of security versus freedom in Winter Soldier. We've instead got just another generic supervillain out for revenge. His motives and ultimate goals are as bare bones as the withered husk that was once Ariana Grande. And as much as we're constantly told that he's some genius biological computer who knows what you're going to do weeks before you do it, his actions in the movie absolutely don't bear this out. He's constantly proven wrong and outsmarted by Captain Black, Ant Falcon Man, and by the end of the film he just kind of gives up and calls it a day. Again, the maxim that a character is only as smart as their writer remains, undefeated by all accounts. Not only was this film reshot multiple times, but the runtime was also drastically cut back at the 11th hour, which probably explains why characters like Giant Brain Man get so little development. It's all been left on the cutting room floor. It's the same story with Giancarlo Esposito, who the trailers played up as some criminal mastermind that was going to test Captain Black and Falcon Man to his limits. In reality, he's just a basic hired gun who appears in like 3 scenes, and watching a not particularly fit man in his mid-60s trying to hold his own in a fight against Anthony Mackie just made me feel embarrassed for both actors. Mackie himself does his best with the wildly inconsistent material he's got to work with his basic character. Arc is similar to Falcon and the Winter Soldier. A man conflicted about who he's working for and unsure about whether he's the right guy for the job in the hands of better writers, and assuming it hadn't already been done in a TV show. Already the story of a successor struggle to fill the hole left by a legendary hero and find his own path forward might have made for a decent character arc here, though it just feels forced and repetitive, trying to manufacture a character conflict that's already been resolved and loading him down with ridiculous levels of technology that can do almost anything. It makes him feel more like Iron Man than Captain America. Like if you're going to turn him into something that doesn't even vaguely resemble the hero he's replacing, then why even call him Captain America in the first place? Then there's the small child pretending to be a secret agent, whose name I totally forget because it's only mentioned like once in passing, a character who, I guess once, had a much bigger role in this film, kind of like Natasha in Winter Soldier, only definitely not as HS. But as it stands, I've got no idea how I'm supposed to feel about her because there's really nothing to like or dislike here. She barely even has any dialogue, never mind a personality or character arc. And if I was a cynical man, I'd say that her Israeli background might have had something to do with it. Likewise, the totally implausible David and Goliath war between America and Japan, when China would have been a much more plausible rival. But then again, we wouldn't want to offend one of Disney's biggest potential markets now, would we? And I guess that's the fundamental problem when your storytelling philosophy is basically, let's push whatever ideas our current safe focus group tested and politically correct. Sometimes the culture and the politics shift quicker than your films can catch up to them. And the more you scramble to rewrite and reshape them, the more you hollow out their artistic integrity until there's basically nothing left. And that's what Brave New World really is when you get right down to it. An empty shell, superficially big and bombastic, but with no real meaning or creative intent behind it. Awkwardly stitched together out of pieces from other, more successful films, and feeling like it's got no particular reason to exist. I get the impression that nobody's been especially excited for this one, in the run-up to release, least of all Marvel themselves. And now that I've seen it, I can definitely understand. Why do yourself a favor? Save the ridiculous ticket price, and do something more rewarding with your time. Instead, like a giant turds anyway. That's all I've got for today. Go away now.